Had to grab my own Negroni today. So now I'm probably going to hear from the union. Somebody said, hey, Martin Luther King, because we talked about Martin Luther King having a dream. And they said, you know, he wasn't talking about dreaming. He was talking about quality. It was I have a dream, not I had a dream. He did also famously have a terrible speech called I Had a Dream, where he's like, you were pizza. Someone said, hi, hey. They said it like that, where they double clutched. They were like, hi, hey. And I was patient. People get nervous around me. They said, why, in the opening of the Closer Look, it shows a map of the United States, and there's no Alaska and no Hawaii. Sal has some very strong feelings about those two states. That basically boils down to they don't belong. I don't know why. He's tried to explain it to me a bunch of times. He hands out sort of an unstapled pamphlet called Project 48. He gets very frustrated if you don't. He's always like, what don't you get? And we're always like, oh yeah, no, and we all then, it's just easier to go along with it. So when he said he didn't want him in the Closer Look, we were like, fine. Kristen Bell was on the show. We showed a clip from her new television program. And someone said, I can't believe you didn't mention the fact that Mike Lindell was the waiter in that clip. And so I looked at a still photo of the clip, and it's just it's an actor who looks a little bit like Mike Lindell. But then I went back and I actually watched the scene, and now I'm not so sure. So let's take a look.
You can't friend zone me, right? Because I already friend zoned you.
Oh, 100%. I am just agreeing that that's like
Hugo Chavez.
Still kind of rude. Please don't steal
Dominion
my
voting machines.
Can I get some bread too, please?
You save big money at Menards, not more money at Menards. Somebody wrote a fun fact about John Menard. I remember from growing up in Eau Claire, he had his kids go to public school despite being a billionaire. Well, if private schools in Eau Claire are anything like private schools in New York, he probably sent them there to stay a billionaire. Menards, interesting, is also what Andy Samberg calls his balls. Save big money at Menards. We talked about the one-armed man in The Fugitive. I called him an assassin. Someone wrote, in the movie The Fugitive, the one-armed man was a police officer who lost his arm in the line of duty. Then he became an assassin. Nothing funny, just fugitive facts.
I didn't kill my wife! I don't care!
I talked about getting on the elevator last week with my two security guards, and someone said, do you really need two security guards to ride with you on the elevator? It's a complicated answer. Here's the thing. Just Jim, I'm fine with one. If it's John, Jim has to come sort of as backup, because if a gunman ever made a run at me and it was just John, there's like a over 50% chance he'd be looking at his phone trying to find a picture of his daughter Katie to show me. It's a really good field hockey player. He was always, and so. And John doesn't know, it's just on John days, Jim's like, yeah, I'll come along too, but it's for safety. I should know, John also has 3 sons. Their names are, never heard it, no idea, your guess is as good as mine. I've seen him in like the background of pictures of Katie. I said a palindrome last week about lasagna, and I didn't realize it's from a really good Weird Al song called Bob, which is all palindromes. And it's a Bob Dylan parody of that Subterranean Homesick Blues, where he's holding up words and dropping on the ground, which is a iconic music video. I think it's one of the first music videos when we think about it. And you know who hates that video? Wally. He's always like, where's the catcher? Two comments that I really enjoyed. You got that? I remember when this was funny, episode 1, and ever since then, it's just been a load of horse sure. Oh, what a bummer to up and spell wrong at the end of your. And then this one, you are in denial if you, this crap, will ever win an Emmy. Think. You were missing think. They are not allowed to dip hot dogs in water anymore at the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. Thanks, Obama. We talked about Mark Robinson, the gubernatorial candidate in North Carolina, who left comments on porn sites, and obviously that hit home with all of you who are the kind of people who leave comments on websites. And someone said, what do you call jackals on porn sites? Jackals. Because it works two ways. You could also go with wackles or jackoffs. We'll set up, go to Sea Captain Poles, P-O-L-E-S. It's a nautical pornography website. Lot of shipwreck stuff. You know what a pirate's favorite adult film is? Rated X. Doesn't work, but. I was at Sea Captain Poles, just research. I wasn't like watching anything, because again, you know, it's like, what is even nautical in pornography? And they have a lot of movie parodies. Do you know what the porn version of Moby Dick is called? Ahab's Folly. The website Mark Robinson went to is called Nude Africa, and we then showed a MILF, I forget even what it's called, but we had, in the photo of our fake porn, it was all white actors, and someone said, hey, if it was Nude Africa, they should have been black actors. No white Africans, you say? I think Cecil Rhodes would like a word. The Matt Damon guy from Invictus? Pringles are not legally allowed to be called chips. They don't actually use potatoes. They use dehydrated processed potatoes. So legally, they can't say chips. They get around it by calling themselves crisps. Which is weird to call yourself crisps when they could have just said dehydrated processed potatoes. I had some criticism about the bingo card that was used in late night debate, and originally I was upset because it said there were 3 blank spaces, and then of course I'm looking at it, and it's too late to change anything when I'm out there. But there's a lot more wrong with it than that. Bingos kind of famously need to have like a second row of like numbers. Like, how would this bingo game work? Be wherever you want to put it. Talked about my bet with Kenny. Where Kenny and I have a bet on the Steelers-Jets game, which is coming up in October. And Kenny set the terms. And the bet for Kenny was, if the Jets win, I have a mug on my desk till the end of the football season with the final score of the game. And if the Steelers win, he gets a tattoo of the final score with my signature. And I said it was like an uneven. I thought that was an uneven bet. And then Kenny comes up to me today and he's like, I want to change the terms. If you win, I get 2 tattoos. I'm like, whoa. Someone said, asked and wrote and said, does Kenny already have tattoos? He's a Jets fan who bets in tattoos. He's covered, dudes. He's like Guy Pearce in Memento. I saw his ID. It doesn't look anything like him. I'm like, what happened? He's like, oh, this is all a tattoo. I got a lot of tattoos during the Favre year. I will say, before I wrap things up, Aaron Rodgers looked pretty good the other night. And my wife did say, I said, haha. I was like, can you believe this guy Kenny? Yeah, I gotta have a mug and he has to get a tattoo. And she was like, won't the mug make you so much angrier than the tattoo would make him? And I was like, Kenny. Well, see me next week.